Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. There are humiliations you can forget, and then there are the ones that etch themselves into your spine, forever changing how you hold yourself. That night, mine was carved in real time, under string lights and champagne laughter, 30 stories above the city. The rooftop of the Elysian Hotel glittered like a movie set. Glass railings, velvet furniture, a skyline so perfect it looked fake. Melissa had insisted I come. It's just a company party, babe. I want you to meet everyone. I was dressed to match her world. Navy suit, polished shoes, smile in place. But what I didn't expect was for my wife, my Melissa, to act like I was the plus one to her performance. It happened fast. She stepped off the elevator first, her arm brushing mine only for a second before she drifted into the crowd like perfume. People flocked to her. Laughter rose. And then I saw it. Derek, taller than me, cocky smile, tailored too tight. One of those guys who thinks every room bends toward him. And Melissa? She walked straight up to him, and without hesitation, slid into his arms like they were finishing a dance I'd never seen begin. I blinked, took a breath, then stepped forward, hand extended. Melissa. She didn't even look at me. Laughter bubbled from her lips. For him, not me. She let Derek's hand rest low on her back, too low. I stood there like some confused extra in a drama I hadn't been cast in. So I said her name again, louder. Melissa. That time, she turned. Just her head. Her smile didn't reach me. Oh hey, she said, like I was someone she barely remembered. I've been standing here, I said, my voice taut. You didn't see me? Her eyes flicked toward Derek, then back to me. Don't be weird, Ethan. It's a party. A party where you ignore your husband? Someone behind me let out a low whistle. I heard murmurs. My hand dropped. You're embarrassing yourself, she hissed, too low for the others, but sharp enough to sting. I stepped closer. I'm your husband, not some intern. You want to tell me what's going on here? She stepped back, still smiling, still playing for the audience. Not here. Her tone didn't match her expression. To the crowd, it looked like a lover's spat. But to me, it was the start of something much uglier. I turned, walked away before I said something I couldn't unsay. As I reached the balcony doors, I heard Derek's laugh again. Deep, confident, like he'd already won something. I stepped outside. The wind off the city was cold. My fists were tight, jaw locked. Behind me, the glass shimmered with party lights and betrayal. This wasn't just disrespect. This was her making a choice, and making sure I saw it. I leaned against the railing and let the cold slap my face. Somewhere inside, a murmur of voices grew louder. And I knew. Tonight was just the beginning. The chill out on the balcony wasn't just from the wind. It was in my chest now, a bitter frost spreading slow. 30 stories up, I stared out over the city, trying to convince myself I hadn't just seen what I'd seen. But the image of Melissa leaning into Derek burned behind my eyes like it was etched there. Rough evening. I turned sharply. The voice was smooth, refined, but with an edge that made it clear she wasn't here just to check on my well-being. She stepped into the moonlight like someone used to making entrances. Tall, dark red dress with clean lines. Hair pinned up like every strand had signed a contract to behave. Vanessa Monroe, Melissa's boss. We'd met once, briefly, a handshake, a polite smile, and that was it. Until now. Ms. Monroe, I said, standing straighter. Vanessa, she corrected. I don't like titles outside the boardroom. They tend to get in the way of honesty. I waited. Her eyes lingered on me like she was cataloging my reaction. Then, coolly, she walked to the railing beside me, the hem of her dress barely swaying in the wind. She's been sleeping with Derek for 3 months. My head turned so fast I nearly lost balance. What? Vanessa didn't even blink. You're not stupid, Ethan. You know what you saw. But you haven't had proof. I'm giving it to you. She reached into a slim clutch and pulled out a small object, barely larger than a coin. AirTag, she said calmly. Sew it into the lining of her bag. She won't know it's there. Be patient. You'll learn everything. I didn't move. My heart hammered in my throat. You're her boss, I managed. Why are you telling me this? Vanessa's lips curled, not into a smile, something colder. I've watched her lie through teeth, so what it makes her look innocent. She's clever, manipulative, and you're in the way. My fists clenched, not in anger at her, but because every part of this felt like walking into a trap I didn't know the rules of. So you're warning me out of kindness? I asked. Her gaze slid to mine. Steady. Amused. No. I'm warning you because you deserve better than to be played like a fool at your own table. I stared at the AirTag. She placed it gently into my palm. The metal was cold, heavier than it should have been for its size. And what do you get out of this? Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Let's just say, I value clean exits. And your wife? She's about to make a very messy one. Silence settled between us like a fog. Finally, I asked, how do I know you're not just trying to get rid of her for your own reasons? Vanessa shrugged one bare shoulder. You don't. That's the fun part. I turned the tag over in my hand again. My gut twisted, part of me screaming that this was dangerous, that Vanessa might be playing her own game. But another part, the part that watched Melissa laugh in Derek's arms, knew something was already broken. Vanessa leaned in slightly, her voice just above a whisper. She won't suspect you. You've played the loyal husband for too long. Use that. Watch. Wait. Then she stepped back, gave me a final nod, and vanished back into the party like she'd never been there. I was left on the balcony, the city humming beneath me, a tiny piece of technology in my hand, and a storm starting to gather inside me. I didn't trust Vanessa, but I trusted Melissa even less. The moment I stepped back through the glass doors, the warmth of the lounge hit me like a wall. Fake, too polished, like everything in that room was pretending. Champagne flutes clinked, heels clicked across tile, and the rooftop's string lights gleamed as if nothing outside that glass mattered. But I had just been handed a truth I couldn't unhear, and my wife was laughing with the man she was betraying me for. And then, as if summoned by the tension itself, Melissa appeared. She moved quickly across the floor, her walk sharp, chin lifted a little too high, her smile stretched tight like it had been stapled into place. She didn't even acknowledge me at first. Her eyes were locked on Vanessa. That's my husband, she said sharply, her voice slicing through the chatter like a shard of glass. Vanessa didn't even blink. She turned her head slightly, slow and calm, and met Melissa's gaze like she'd been waiting for it. Not for long, she replied. 3 words. Smooth. Precise. Surgical. Melissa's jaw tensed, but before she could fire back, Vanessa walked away, unbothered, heels clicking like a countdown to something no one had warned Melissa about. I stood there, silent. Melissa turned to me now, the fake smile gone. What was that? She demanded. What did she say to you? I gave her nothing. Just looked at her, really looked. Her hair was still perfect. Makeup flawless. But her eyes, they were darting. Searching. Like someone who just realized she was no longer the one holding the script. I'm ready to go, I said calmly, reaching for the car keys. She blinked. Ethan, what did she tell you? Let's go. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but the crowd behind us was watching, and she couldn't risk another scene. She exhaled through her nose and followed me toward the elevator without another word. The silence in the car on the way home wasn't peaceful, it was suffocating. Melissa kept fidgeting, first with her bracelet, then the AC, then scrolling through her phone even though the screen stayed dark. After a few minutes, she tried again. I don't know what that was about, but Vanessa's always hated me. She's jealous. Of us. I said nothing, just kept my eyes on the road. She turned slightly in her seat. Seriously, Ethan, you know how she is. She manipulates people. She likes power plays. Don't let her twist things. She didn't twist anything, I said quietly, still watching the road. That stopped her. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Just let the silence stretch. It was deliberate, measured, a silence I knew would say more than any accusation could. She shifted again, her voice tightening. Ethan, if she said something about Derek, that's ridiculous. He flirts with everyone. She's probably trying to make you jealous, that's her thing. Still nothing from me. Melissa's hands balled into fists on her lap. I don't like you being quiet like this, she said. It's not fair. If something's wrong, just say it. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of guiding this conversation. Not this time. I kept my tone flat. We'll talk at home. She looked out the window now, arms folded tight. Fine. The rest of the ride was wordless, just the soft hum of tires on asphalt and the occasional click of a blinker. But in the space between us, something had shifted, something she couldn't name, but I knew she felt. She thought she could lie and dance and gaslight her way around this, but now she wasn't so sure. I had said almost nothing, and yet she looked more rattled than I had ever seen her. The next morning, the smell of bacon woke me up, thick, smoky, deliberate. It hit me before my eyes even opened. Melissa never cooked bacon. I walked into the kitchen to find her humming softly to herself, a full breakfast spread laid out like a magazine cover. Eggs, toast, sliced fruit, French press coffee. She looked up at me with a smile so wide it didn't belong on a Tuesday. "Morning," she chirped. "I thought we could sit down together today." I stared at the table, then back at her. She never did this. Not even on weekends. Melissa wore a soft robe, one I hadn't seen in months, and her makeup was already done. Too much for 8:15 a.m. "What's the occasion?" I asked. "Do I need one to treat my husband?" She grinned and reached over to pour my coffee. I sat down slowly, watching her the whole time. She kept that smile plastered on like it was part of her foundation. A few weeks ago, I would have smiled back, thanked her, kissed her cheek. Now I chewed in silence, studying her like I was trying to spot the trick in a magic show. The act continued through the week. She planned a spontaneous date night for Friday, steakhouse reservation already booked, babysitter already called, though we didn't even have kids. She danced around the house in yoga pants and scented candles, brushing her fingers across my shoulders as I worked, acting like the distance between us had never existed. One evening, I came home to her curled on the couch with a rom-com playing, a glass of wine in each hand. "This one's yours," she said, patting the seat beside her. "Remember when we watched this on our third date?" I did, but the woman I'd watched it with back then wasn't this rehearsed. "You okay?" I asked as I sat down beside her. "Why wouldn't I be?" she said, flashing a practiced smile. "Can't a wife want to reconnect with her husband?" I gave her a look. She sipped her wine. This wasn't guilt. It was performance. Each day felt like I was living in a commercial break. Too perfect, too bright, every frame carefully arranged for effect. And the more effort she poured into this domestic bliss, the more certain I became. Vanessa wasn't lying. Melissa had something to hide, and she was scrambling now to bury it under casseroles and throw pillows. That Friday night, while she was in the shower, steam curling out from under the bathroom door, I opened her closet. Her handbag sat on the middle shelf. I picked it up gently, my fingers moving with the kind of calm I didn't know I had in me. I turned it over, unzipped the inner lining, checked the stitching. Clean. No holes yet. I slid open the drawer and pulled out the sewing kit I'd kept since college. Barely used, but always there. Then, I reached into my sock drawer and retrieved the small, cold tag Vanessa had given me. A part of me still hesitated. This crossed a line, a quiet one, but a line nonetheless. But so had she. I threaded the needle. Quick stitches. Careful. Deep enough to hold. Shallow enough not to show. My hands moved like I'd done this before. When it was done, I tucked the bag back exactly where it had been. Not a hair out of place. The shower was still running. I walked into the hallway and paused outside the door. Her voice echoed softly through the steam, humming. A familiar tune. But now it sounded different. Less like music. More like cover noise. I went downstairs, turned on the TV, and sank into the couch. The house felt too clean, too scented, too staged. She was putting on a show, and I'd just stepped into the director's seat. The city always feels colder in glass. All that steel and transparency pretending to be warmth. Vanessa's office was perched high above the downtown chaos. All clean lines and silence. Not a single paper out of place. Not a single piece of furniture that didn't mean something. She was already standing by the floor-to-ceiling window when I walked in, silhouetted against the skyline like she belonged to it. "Ethan," she said without turning, voice smooth as ever. "Right on time. I figured you weren't the kind to appreciate tardiness," I replied. She finally turned, and in one elegant motion, crossed the room to her desk, a sleek monolith of black marble, and slid a manila folder across it. "Let's not waste time," she said. "You came for confirmation." I opened the folder. Inside was a single photograph. Crisp, clear, taken in the middle of a company staff meeting, everyone facing forward. Except Melissa. Her hand was under the table, firmly resting on Derek's thigh. My breath caught somewhere between disbelief and inevitability. She wasn't careful, Vanessa said. She thought meetings meant safety. She was wrong. I stared at the image for a long moment. Everything in it felt surreal, not just the betrayal, but the casualness of it. Melissa wasn't flinching, wasn't hiding. She looked calm, smiling, like she belonged there. "That's from 2 weeks ago," Vanessa added. "The photographer is, well, on my payroll." I looked up at her now. She had 2 glasses in her hand, pouring a rich red from a dark bottle. Merlot, she said. Don't worry, not poisoned. I didn't answer. Just took the glass she offered and set it down untouched on the desk. Then the door clicked open. A man stepped in, mid-50s, plain suit, clean-shaven, no wasted movements. He gave a polite nod. Mr. Carter, he said. I'm William Trent. I've been working the surveillance for Vanessa since she suspected something. Vanessa moved behind me now, one hand on my shoulder as the PI continued. Melissa and Derek have met at his place on 6 separate occasions in the last month, he said. They used the same rideshare drop-off 2 blocks away. We've got timestamps, parking receipts, even dry cleaning overlaps. He handed me a slim packet, then nodded once more and excused himself. The door clicked again. Silence. I exhaled slowly, my fingers running along the edge of the photo still on the desk. I wasn't even looking for this, I murmured. I didn't want it. Vanessa's voice came softer now, closer. No one does. Until they see it. Then they wonder how they ever lived without knowing. She stepped around me, her heels clicking quietly against the polished floor. I stood to leave, but she placed a hand on my chest. Wait. And before I could speak, she closed the distance, slipping one knee between mine, then the other, sliding onto my lap with the grace of someone who never asked permission. I didn't move. Her perfume was faint but deliberate, like everything about her. She placed both hands on my shoulders, her voice low against my neck. You're strong, Ethan. Most men crumble. You didn't. My hands found her wrists, not forceful, but firm. Don't, Vanessa, I said, my voice even. She stilled. I looked her in the eyes, and for a flicker of a moment, there was something vulnerable behind that perfect exterior. Something almost curious. Then she smiled, not embarrassed, not offended, merely impressed. Still grounded, she said, sliding off with that same practiced elegance. That's rare. I stood, gathering the folder and the PI's packet. You gave me what I needed. That's all I came for. She nodded once. I admire that. I walked toward the elevator. Just before the doors closed, I heard her voice float out behind me. Not flirtatious, not mocking, just final. She doesn't deserve you, Ethan. And then the door slid shut. I walked through the front door just after 9. Melissa was already waiting, not curled on the couch, not distracted by a show or sipping wine. She was standing near the dining table, arms folded, expression taut, like she'd been rehearsing this confrontation all evening. You didn't text, she said flatly. I closed the door behind me and slipped off my coat, calm. No, I didn't. Her eyes narrowed. Where were you? I met her gaze evenly. With Vanessa. That landed. Hard. Melissa blinked, then laughed, short, tight, incredulous. Vanessa Monroe? My boss. I nodded, walking past her toward the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water slowly, deliberately, and sipped before speaking again. She invited me to talk. Said she wanted to go over your career trajectory. Long-term plans. Promotions. Melissa followed me in, her heels clicking too fast. You're lying. I set the glass down carefully. Why would I lie? Because Vanessa hates me, she snapped, eyes blazing. She undermines me at every turn. She doesn't care about my career trajectory. She wants control. And maybe, I said, pausing to meet her eyes, maybe that's exactly why she wanted to talk. Melissa opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Just a shaky breath. I tilted my head slightly. She suggested coming over for dinner next week. I said I'd run it by you. Her face changed. Not just confusion now. Panic. Dinner, she repeated, voice suddenly thin. You're inviting her here? To our home? She was very persuasive, I said casually, walking toward the hallway. Thought it might be a good idea. A chance to clear the air. Are you kidding me, Ethan? She shouted, following after me. You think I want that woman in my house? She's been trying to push me out of the company for months. I stopped mid-step and turned to face her. You said she was just jealous of us, remember? Melissa's mouth opened, then snapped shut again. Her composure wavered. She took a step back, eyes flicking around like she was trying to find something to latch onto. Then her tone shifted, louder, sharper. Did she flirt with you? I raised an eyebrow. Why would that matter? She pointed at me now, voice rising. Because she's manipulative. She's trying to mess with us, Ethan. Her breathing was uneven now, and for the first time in weeks, the real Melissa showed. Not the woman who'd been smiling through pancakes and movie nights. This one was angry. Scared. Why are you doing this? She asked. Why are you letting her come between us? I didn't answer. I just watched her closely, like someone studying a performance to find the first crack in the illusion. And there it was. In her eyes. Fear. Real, raw fear. Melissa looked at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. And maybe she didn't. That unsettled her more than anything I could have said. You're letting her twist things, she whispered. She's feeding you poison. I turned to leave the hallway. She didn't need to. I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to throw accusations. All I had to do was hold the mirror up and watch Melissa start to break under her own reflection. The next morning started with silence, again, but not the kind where people were too tired to speak. This was loaded. Tight. Like the house itself was waiting to exhale. I was at the kitchen counter, stirring black coffee, already dressed for the day. Melissa stood by the sink in her robe, eyes locked on me like she was trying to crack a code she couldn't solve. Then she said it. So, how long has it been going on? I didn't even flinch. What are you talking about? With Vanessa, she said, biting off every syllable. Don't play dumb. I finally turned to face her. Calm. Steady. Melissa leaned against the counter with her arms crossed tight, robe cinched hard at the waist. You think I'm blind? You disappear for hours. You come home smug, and suddenly Vanessa Monroe is having dinner at our place? I told you, I said. We were talking about your career. She let out a bitter laugh. My career? Don't insult me. She took a step forward now, eyes sharp. You want to hurt me? Fine. But at least be man enough to admit what you're doing. I studied her, not with anger, but with something quieter, something colder. Are you sleeping with her? She demanded. I sipped my coffee. Melissa slammed her hand on the counter. Ethan, still, I didn't raise my voice. If that's what you've decided, I'm not going to argue with you. She blinked like she didn't expect that. Then, leaning in, her voice turned low, dangerous. I swear to God, if you're lying to me, what? I cut in, still calm. What exactly are you going to do, Melissa? That caught her. She blinked again, arms tightening. I will leave, she said. Don't think I won't. I nodded once. No sarcasm. No mockery. I'm not holding you here. Those 5 words landed like a stone dropped in still water. She went completely still. Her breath caught. That confident posture she had carried in, like a woman preparing for war, buckled slightly. What does that mean? She asked, softer now. It means, I said, setting down my mug, you don't need my permission to go. If that's what you want, the door's right there. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. And for the first time in this house, in this marriage, I watched Melissa lose the upper hand. It wasn't about threats anymore. She couldn't use them, because they didn't scare me. She stepped back, blinking fast. I never said I wanted to leave. You just did. I said I would, she corrected quickly. If you're cheating on me. I'm not. You expect me to believe that? I shrugged. Believe whatever helps you sleep. She turned away, pacing, her hand flying to her temple like she was trying to stop her thoughts from spilling out. The robe slipped off her shoulders slightly, but she didn't adjust it. Her focus was shot. This wasn't about Vanessa. Not really. It was about the fact that for the first time in a very long time, Melissa didn't know what I was thinking. That terrified her. You've changed, she said quietly. I nodded. Yes. She turned to me again, eyes searching. Why? I didn't answer. Because the real answer was this. Because you forced me to. But I wasn't going to give her that. Not yet. She stood there a few seconds longer, then slowly walked out of the kitchen without another word. And I stood alone, no longer chasing, no longer explaining, just watching the scales finally shift. Exactly 1 week later, my phone lit up at 7:46 a.m. Vanessa Monroe. Text message. The evidence is solid. You're free to act. No emojis. No extra words. Just the green light. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the message for a moment, letting the weight of it sink in. In the background, Melissa moved around the bathroom, humming to herself, like everything was perfectly normal. It wasn't. I didn't say a word. I stood, dressed, grabbed my keys, and drove. Derek's house was a minimalist box sitting just outside the city, all gray walls and black trim. The kind of place you buy when you're more concerned with appearances than roots. I'd never been here before, but I knew the address. Vanessa's investigator had sent it to me days ago, along with timestamps, photos, and entry logs. I stood at the front door, calm as I'd ever been, and pressed the bell. It took a while. Then the door opened, and there he was. Derek Whitmore. Shirtless, hair messy, holding a mug like he hadn't expected the world to show up on his doorstep this morning. He blinked at me. "Ethan." "Yeah," I said, stepping forward so he had to back up. "We need to talk." He looked around awkwardly. "Now's not. You'll be out by Monday," I said. Voice firm. "Steady." He blinked again. "Out of what?" I tilted my head slightly, watching him fumble. "You know exactly what I mean." He laughed, nervous. "Look, I think maybe I have security footage," I cut in. "Car logs, dates, times, and a nice clean thread of Melissa using her work travel as a cover for nights spent in your guest room." His mouth opened, not to deny it, but because he didn't expect it to come from me. "Not like this." I stepped in a little closer. "You thought no one was paying attention. You thought you'd get to play behind my back and keep your career squeaky clean." He tried to recover, puffing his chest a little. "This is between you and her, man. Don't drag me into your—" "It's already done," I interrupted. "I dragged you into nothing. You walked into it yourself." I pulled a folded envelope from my coat pocket and handed it to him. "Consider this formal notification. I've already submitted everything to HR at your firm. This isn't a bluff." He opened the envelope slowly, and when he saw the first page, a printed report from the private investigator, his face drained. "I never," he started, but the words didn't even have a landing. I took a breath, then said the words I'd rehearsed in my head for days. "You'll be out by Monday." My evidence. My doing. Behind him, I saw the silhouette of someone in the hallway, a woman, long hair, ducking out of sight fast. So it wasn't just one mistake. This was habit. Derek glanced back, his jaw tightening. "You're making this into a war, Ethan." "No," I said. "You started the war. I'm just ending it." He didn't follow me as I turned around and walked back to my car. But I could feel the buzz of panic start behind me, the slammed door, hurried voices, the beginning of collapse. I slid into the driver's seat, closed the door quietly, and took a long breath. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was drowning in suspicion or stuck in someone else's performance. Now, I was writing the script, and I wasn't done yet. If you're still listening, please tap the like button on this video. When I walked through the front door that night, the house was silent. No music playing, no candles lit, no smell of anything cooking. Just stillness. Melissa was already waiting. She sat at the kitchen table like she'd been carved from stone. Her posture too straight, hands clenched together, eyes glassy but dry. She didn't say hello. I set my keys on the console and walked in slowly, watching her. She didn't move. Her voice, when it came, was flat, controlled. "You went to his house." I didn't respond. I just walked past her, toward the living room. Set my coat over the back of a chair. She followed, barefoot now, no longer performing. Her tone cracked at the edges. "What did you tell him?" I turned and looked at her. Everything he already knew. Her chin trembled, just once, but she straightened it quickly. "You had no right, Ethan. That wasn't your place." My jaw clenched, but I kept my voice low. "Wasn't my place?" She blinked fast. "You don't know the full story. You're just reacting. Vanessa, she's manipulating you." I reached down, calmly, and picked up her handbag from the side table where she always dropped it. She froze. Her breath caught. A sharp inhale. She didn't finish. "Ethan, what are you doing?" I sat on the arm of the couch, unzipping the main compartment without rushing. "Wait. Don't," she said quickly. "Whatever you think." I didn't speak. Didn't even look at her. I reached into the bag, pulled back the lining with deliberate care, and slid the small scissors I'd brought from the drawer into the seam. Snip. One clean cut. Then another. Her voice rose now, more panic than anger. "Ethan, stop. Just talk to me." I reached in, pulled it out. The air tag sat in the palm of my hand, glinting faintly under the kitchen light. I lifted it slowly, held it in the space between us. Melissa's legs buckled. She sank to her knees like her entire body gave out. No drama, no collapse. Just slow surrender. Her hands came up to cover her mouth, but the sob that escaped cracked the silence wide open. "Oh my God," she whispered. Tears spilled fast, unfiltered, uncontrollable. "You tracked me." Her voice was small now, shattered. You really." Still, I said nothing. I just stood there, holding the truth in my hand, watching the last layer of her lies peel away in real time. She crawled forward a few inches on her knees, then stopped herself, ashamed of even that. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she choked. It was supposed to stop. I didn't respond. Didn't ask questions. Didn't grant her the comfort of a conversation. Her eyes pleaded now. Say something, please. Yell at me. Be angry. Just don't stand there like that. But silence was all I had left to give. Because she wasn't looking for the truth. Not really. She was looking for a way back into control. And she could feel now, for the first time, there wasn't one. The air between us thickened, sharp with everything unspoken. She stayed on her knees, crying quietly. And I watched the woman I once thought I knew unravel in front of me, thread by thread. Not with a scream, but with silence. And that silence said it all. It all unraveled faster than I expected. 3 days after the air tag hit the table, Vanessa called. Her voice was calm, not smug, not cold. Just certain. It's done, she said. Legal pulled the server logs. Derek and Melissa were both moving files off platform. Confidential decks. Client lists. It's going to get ugly. I didn't say much. Just thanked her. By the end of that same day, Melissa's access card had been revoked. By the next, Derek's office was cleared out before lunch. No headlines. No loud drama. Just quiet terminations with HR escorts and NDA reminders. But word spread anyway, especially in their industry. The whispers were enough to burn everything. She didn't try to deny it when it all came to light. There wasn't anything left to deny. The courtroom was clean, bright, clinical. I sat beside my attorney, blazer pressed, back straight. I didn't fidget. I didn't shift. Across the aisle, Melissa looked like someone I barely recognized. Her hair was pulled back tight, makeup too pale, blazer one size too large like she borrowed someone else's life to wear for the day. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. But she looked at me, not pleading, not defiant. Just hollow. Her eyes searched for something. A flicker of familiarity. A moment of softness. I didn't give it. The judge moved briskly through the case. The data theft had shifted everything. The division of property was no longer contested. There would be no spousal support. Vanessa's testimony, along with the PI's report, made sure of that. Melissa lost her job, lost her case, and in many ways, lost her version of reality, the one where she still had a grip on the narrative. As we stood up to leave, she rose slowly from her chair. And for a moment, just one long second, she looked at me with the quiet ache of someone who finally understood what she had cost herself. Not just the marriage, but the respect, the stillness, the version of me that used to believe her. And I walked past without returning the look. Because some endings don't need final words. Some endings are the echo of what was never said in time. 3 weeks passed. The dust didn't settle so much as it just stopped choking me. The quiet felt unfamiliar at first. No more tension humming beneath every sentence. No more second-guessing my own reflection. Just stillness. And then one Saturday afternoon, I found myself at a lakeside cafe, the kind with warped wooden chairs and coffee, served in mismatched mugs. It wasn't a place Melissa would have liked. Vanessa was already there. She wore a soft gray coat, hair loose for the first time since I'd met her. No heels, no makeup armor. Just her. Different. Or maybe just real. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said as I sat across from her. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. She smiled, not sharp, not rehearsed. Just quiet. We talked for a while. About nothing, mostly. Work. Weather. How the leaves were turning slower this year. The air between us wasn't cold like before. It wasn't calculated. It was clear. After a pause, she folded her hands around her mug and looked at me, eyes steady. I've wanted to say something for a while, she said. I've known about you longer than you think. I raised an eyebrow slightly. The first time I saw you, she continued, was at the Winter Gala 3 years ago. Melissa introduced you. You were wearing some awful plaid tie, and you kept fixing it like it didn't belong on you. I smirked. It didn't. I remember thinking, this guy doesn't fit into this world. And not because he isn't good enough, but because he's better than the noise around him. You were grounded. Loyal. Different. She took a breath, like she'd been holding it in too long. I've admired that since the beginning. I didn't speak right away. Just watched her, the wind curling off the lake behind her, soft and clean. I'm not in a rush, she added. And I don't expect you to be either. But if there's space in your life now, I'd like to be in it. There was no pressure in her tone. No angle. Just honesty. I looked down at my coffee, let the moment breathe. The old version of me might have hesitated longer, afraid of what it meant to start over. But I wasn't him anymore. Too much had been stripped away to cling to fear now. I looked up and met her eyes, and nodded, slowly, deliberately. Her expression didn't change much, just softened, like she already knew the answer before I gave it. We sat there in silence for a few minutes after, watching the lake move, unhurried. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back. I was ready to step forward. That was the end of my story. But before you go, there's something I've been turning over in my mind. Vanessa made the call to expose Melissa and Derek, even though it could have blown back on her career. All to protect the company, and maybe me. Did she do the right thing, or did she cross a line? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you felt this story, hit like and subscribe. I've got more to share.